Okay, I'm going to show you now another type of progression that you're going to encounter in jazz. This is in a bossa nova form, but you could also find it in a swing, where it's actually just playing in two different keys. I'm starting off in a minor key, and then I'm going to a major key. In the case of this tune, it's starting off on C minor 7, which would be the root for that key. And then it's going to go to the 4 chord of that, which would be F minor 7. And then we're going to have a turnaround, which is the 2-5-1, but we didn't have a 2-5-1 in minor up until now, and now we're going to have that. So the 2-5-1 for C minor is going to be D half diminished, or D minor 7 flat 5. And then we've got a G7, which we can play G7 sharp 5, or we can play G7 with a sharp 9. Any one of these will work. And then C minor 7. Now what happens is this chord is going to move up a minor third to E flat minor 7. And that's the 2 chord. The 5 chord, of course, we've had this already, and our 2-5-1 is going to be A flat 7 or 13, and then D flat major 7. And then we go back to the original key, which is C minor, and we transition by a 2-5-1. Now what's interesting is, and this happens a lot, is that when I go to the 2-5-1 major, resolving on that D flat major 7, if you look at what my fingers do, and this is a good key as to what's happening, I'm moving up the root note here just a half step. This part of the chord stays the same. So that would give me some ammunition to say, there's a similarity to these two chords, and there is, because in both chords, in the D flat major 7 and in the D half diminished or D minor 7 flat 5, is an F minor. So in this motif that I set up for you, I decided to use all minor triads. And the first one for C minor 7 is just a C minor. That's the very first one. The second one, of course, for F minor 7, logically, is an F minor 7. And the reason I did this because I wanted to show you how you can just take simple harmonies and play them over these chords and still make nice melodies. And it lines up very well, because here's the C minor and here's the F minor. Now they have major chords that are related to them, which are in the chords themselves. In the C minor 7, we have an E flat. So you could play E flat, but E flat major and C minor are related to each other. There's two of the same notes. So I have the E flat moving to the C minor. So either one of those would be usable, but for this motif I'm just using the C minor. For the second chord, again, for the F minor 7, which I played down here, I can see here that here's my A flat major in there, which you could essentially play here, but I'm playing F minor. Then what I'm going to do for the half diminished, the D minor 7 flat 5, is stay on the F minor. Now I'm going to introduce something to you that we talked about before, altered dominance, which means I'm going to take a minor chord over this G7. I said G7. Now we had the G7 before. We played it like this, or like the G13, or just this. What I'm going to do, I'll just take the tritone here, and I'll add this top note, so I have the diminished triad, and I'm going to raise the top note, and that's actually the sharp 5. And what happens is if I add the flat 9, which would be up here, now I have a new triad. I have an A flat minor. And that's interesting because if I'm coming off of this chord, I just move it down here. And this is again using 3 strings on 1 fret, so you want to get used to separating your finger and then going back to the C minor. So the exercise or the motif for the bossa nova is C minor, and this is the order of the notes, and the rhythm is again the same rhythmic phrase. It's staying on that F minor for the half diminished, and now going to that A flat minor for my G7. So if you had to learn to play that set of notes over a G7 sharp 5 using scales and arpeggios, it would take you years to figure out how to play an altered dominant. I just showed you how to play an altered dominant within maybe 30 seconds. And believe me, this information is very valuable, because when you come across a chord like this and you want to use certain notes, it's very, very easy to do when you know the formula. And I'm showing you a formula now. So take the concept and make it your own and innovate. So that's the first part of the tune. When it goes to the chord change, of course, I'm going to keep the same type of motif and just shift everything up, because we went from C minor 7 up to E flat minor 7. So we're going to take that C minor and shift it up here, of course, to the E flat minor. Now I could essentially do the same thing by moving down here to the E flat here. Two different types of sounds. But if you like that sound, then try to discover where the other triads are to do the same thing, and it will work. But I'm going up here and using the same concept, the altered dominant. Now I'm doing this for my 2-5-1, the major 2-5-1. I'm using the same concept by playing an A minor triad, which would actually be an altered dominant for my A flat 7. Normally I play the 13, but what I'm going to do here is play a sharp 5 with a flat 9, which gives me this sound. So now I have chromatics for my 2-5-1. And if you listen to the line, you can hear the chords. I don't have to do more than just play that. And you hear all that stuff that is contained in here. And I didn't have to have a science degree to do that. I just had to put a little thought into where the shape was and separate the notes. But this is going to give you some ammunition to be able to try to utilize any of this information in different parts of the neck with different inversions. And I encourage you to do that, to try it out. Because essentially this whole solo is based on just minor triads. And it's very specific. C minor, F minor, and F minor is being used for two different chords. And then I've got an A flat minor and a C minor. Shift it up for the key change. E flat minor. Now the altered dominant, A minor, which is actually a half step up from A flat minor. I did that on purpose because I wanted to show you some things that will kind of keep you in the same zone, so you're not going to be too far off the beaten path when you're trying to get this stuff under your fingers. Because like I said, learning it is one thing, but really knowing it is another. And once you get the finger movements down and get all this motor skills to be able to play it, you want to internalize it so that you're hearing each note as you play. And you're hearing it before you play it. That's the key.